Hey everybody, I'm not going to be before you long. I just wanted to share something that happened to me on Thursday. I have been so overwhelmed lately just with life in general and with things that are going on. And so Thursday just was my breaking point, and I had felt like I just could not take another bad news, like another bad thing. Like I felt like I just was drowning. I felt like there's no way out of this. I felt like so many different things, right? And so I ended up texting my family or whatever, or my sister, and just confiding, and another person or whatever, my aunt, and just confiding in them about how I felt, because I felt like I was being closed in. I felt like the walls were closing in on me. I felt surrounded, by the things that I'm going through. And so, I went back to work. This was like maybe a few minutes before I was getting ready to go. And so I'm in the hallway. And y'all gotta forgive me, but I'm in the hallway because I'm getting emotional just thinking about it, because I was sitting here listening to Smokey Norfolk. I understand. Like, listen, when you think about the fact that Jesus wept, he wept because he felt. He wept because he cares. He wept because he knows what we go through. He feels the things we feel through, the things we feel. He hears our thoughts. He sees what we go through. He sees each and every cry. He sees the pain, and none of that is in vain, but he wept. Like, what? So when we weep, he feels it, he knows, he understands. And so I'm sitting here listening to I Understand by Spoken Norfield, right? And so I just started thinking about how on Thursday, I wasn't thinking about taking one more step. I was stuck on the step that I was currently standing on, and I felt like there was no way out. Like I felt like that was just the end, because I don't know, it was hard to struggle. I'm sorry, it was hard to just see past what I was going through. And so I went in the hallway and just started praying, and started asking God to just give me strength to get through it. And so I went back and I got a notification on my phone, and it was a young lady that I listen to kind of often. Now I haven't been listening to too much of a lot of things lately, but I saw this video that she uploaded, and it was a very message for me. And it talked about our expectations, getting rid of the plans and the way that we think God is going to do something for us. Taking the expectation off of it, because God will do exceedingly above anything that we can ever think. And so just because it's taking a little bit longer does not mean that God does not hear you. Does not mean that God does not understand. Does not mean that God is not with you. But it means that God is that more in the details. It means that God is still trying to do something in you. So that's why you're still going through whatever it is that you're going through. You're still holding on by a thread, because God wants you to hold on to his clothes. Like, God wants you to grab hold to him. Like, and so as I realized that, I was crying, I was praying, and then I got myself together and I went back, and then I still was sitting at my desk and I still had tears rolling out of my face. So then I got up and I went and started staring out the window, and I started looking outside. And so tears was just running up my face. And so I finally put myself together, because I said, God, I need you to give me the strength. Like, I need you to give me the strength to get through this, because I don't want to break down in here. I got to keep it together. And so, as hard as I was trying, I could not keep it together. Tears was just running out. So I stayed in this room looking out the window, pretending like I was okay. And after I got myself together, I sat down and the phone rang. This was like a few minutes before it was time for me to get off, like 4:50 something. And so one of the patients called for the doctor's office that I work for. And so I pick up the phone, and we're talking about this procedure that she has to have. And so I end up looking into what she wanted me to do and stuff like that. So I put her on hold, and I come back and I tell her or whatever. And so she starts confiding in me, and she says, she said, I'm sorry that I keep calling. She said, I know you remember me. I remember you. Do you remember me? And I said, yes, ma'am, I remember you. And so she said, I don't mean to be a pain. I said, no, you're not a pain. I said, it's okay, because I'd rather you call us and you ask us than not know and be stressing. I'd rather you pick up the phone and make that call. And have all the answers you need versus not knowing. And so she said, I know that I keep calling y'all back to back and I'm stressing about this and I'm worried about this. And she said, it's because, to be honest with you, I'm afraid out of my mind. And she says, I don't know if you know what that feels like. She said, I am afraid out of my mind that I don't know how this procedure is going to go. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it done before I have to leave Jacksonville. And I don't know. And I'm afraid. And I don't know. And she just kept saying, I don't know if you understand. And so immediately, tears is rolling down my eyes, because I'm like, yes, I understand. Like, girl, you don't even know. Like, you don't know the half. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm on the phone literally talking to her. And so she said, my mom told me that sometimes you just have to wait. And I told, no, what did I tell her? I said, you know what? I said, I understand. I said, not only do I understand, I said, but God is also doing something in my life where it's teaching me that I have to wait things out. I got to be a little bit more patient, because it doesn't matter how many times I call, I'm still going to get the same answer I got 10 minutes ago. I said, and sometimes we want things done at our time. We want him to move on our accord. I said, but we have to remember, we are not in control. It doesn't matter how long we get information. It doesn't matter how long we sit on hold or get or call. If God says not yet is the answer. And we got to keep pushing until we get to that point where the appointed time is, whatever that looks like, a procedure, a news that you're waiting for, some breakthrough whatever you're waiting for. Like, we want what God has for us right now, but God says, if I give it to you now, what would you do with it? If I give it to you now, how would that, work? And so I told her, I said, as humans, God understands that we're human and we operate sometimes out of our flesh, because we want it done and we want it now, and we want to know answers. We want to have a plan for the plan that God has for us. But in all of that, it again comes back to control. I said, sometimes we got to walk that thing out minute by minute, second by second, day by day, until we get to that point where it's time to actually do what it is that we're prepared to do. And she said, she said, that was good. She said, my mom told me that you got to stop trying to be in control and let God be in control. You got to release your hand and fight off fear and get more faith than you have fear. And I said, you are absolutely right. I said, you can't go based off what you see and what you feel and what you think, because our feelings are deceiving. Sometimes our thoughts can go deep off. Sometimes what we feel is not right. But we know that God is good all the time, because there's evidence in our lives time and time and time again where God has showed up and he has done a thing. He has done the things. He is the one who can do all things, and he can turn everything for our good. So we have to trust that even in the most scariest situations, God is still good. God still has our back, and he understands what we're going through. Because he loved us so much that he sent his only begotten son. He had to watch his son on the cross. The same way he see us fighting for our lives in warfare, fighting against temptation, fighting against sin. Sometimes we drown and we feel like there's no way I can come out of this. There's no way I can swim back to the shore because the tides are too strong. The pressure is too hard. The wind is too strong. But then God swoops in and he pulls us out of it. And all the while, when we get to that other side, we're like, God, I don't even know why I doubted you. I don't know why I was worrying. And I'm sorry. But I had to share this because I don't know what you're going through. And I don't know what your one day at a time looks like, but I want you to know that God is with you in each and every step that you You gotta trust him. He's never failed you before. He's never left you before. You got to remind yourself of the victories you've won because of God's hand in the midst of your trial. In the midst of the enemy wanting you to quit, you got to remember that God was still there. Even though it may have bruised you, God wasn't trying to hurt you. He was trying to get you to get endurance. God was trying to build you up in the building down. God was trying to push you back to shoot you forward. And sometimes it doesn't feel that way because it's taking a little bit longer. Even if it's 2 days, that's too many. We always anticipate the things that are to come. And in that, we miss what God is doing in the now. And so I'm sorry I got so emotional because when I was sitting here listening to that, yes, I understand by Smoking Norfolk. When you listen to the words of that, you take it back to context of the Bible, you really realize that God really does understand everything that we're going through. And he also understands that we want it to be over. We want the tears to go away. We want the joy to be here. But we have to be able to have some long suffering. We have to endure. We have to be able to go through a little bit of something so that he can get the glory. And sometimes it's not as it's. And we also have to take our expectation off of it. We also have to realize that God may not do it the way he did it last time. It may not be a sudden overnight success. It may not be 24-hour, 48-hour turnaround. It may take some months. It may take some years. It may take some hours. It may take some time because this time God is doing something bigger in you through what you're going through. But it doesn't feel that way. And so we cry out, God, do you even care? Do you even know what I'm going through down here? And you have to remember, yes, he is God. He knows all. And he is good. He got your back. So trust him. I don't know what you're going through, but I pray that at 4:55, 5 minutes before that 5 o'clock hour, God sent me a reminder call to remind me not to give up, to not worry about what it looks like because it's bigger than what it looks like. You got to take your eyes off what you see and get on him, focus on him because he's the only one who can turn this thing around for you. He's the only one that can pull you out. And so I pray that you get a reminder that it's all good. It's better than good because Ephesians 3 said, 3:20, God is going to do unthinkably good things in our lives. More than you can think, pray, ask, or imagine in what you're going through. So keep pressing, keep pushing, keep going. Don't stop because of what it looks like. You come too far to give up. The enemy wants you to quit. And something that I have literally been struggling with is school. Y'all, I'm tired. It's taking a little bit longer than I expected. But I'm still here. Still here, still pressing, still doing, because I know that I didn't come this far. I didn't stay up all night sometimes doing schoolwork to fail. I didn't retake this course to fail. And God's not going to allow me to fail. So trust him because he's got your back. And I just want to just highlight just so many things. Like the fact that right before it was time for me to clock out, like think about that metaphorically. Like I had already kind of checked out mentally because I was overwhelmed by what I was going through. But before I could fully just tap out and give up and call it in, because I was at a point where I wanted to give up. I was at a point where I was asking myself, okay, why am I even doing this? Why am I even trying, Lord? What is all of this happening for? If it's all for nothing, if it's all in vain. And before that last hour, in the nick of time, God showed up for me to give me a reminder that he understands. But I got to hold on a little bit longer. And sometimes it's not what we want to hear if we're being real. We don't want to hold on a little bit longer because we've been holding on long enough. And why is it taking so long? But you got to know that in the journey, God still wants you to hold on to him. He doesn't want you stressing and crying and sleepless and hungry Feed off of his word, thirst off of his living water, and you will be replenished. You got to grab hold to him. Release everything that is holding you back from really trusting God. And sometimes you got to realize that the biggest mistakes can be turned around into the biggest miracles in our lives. That's where God shows up. That's where God does his best work, in our mistakes and our flaws. And that's why I think that God created us flawed, because that's where he can come in and do his thing. He can be God. And we can just walk by grace, because we know that we can never do it in our own strength. And so you gotta trust him through it, and just know that he has your back. And everything that you're going through is necessary for him to get the glory. Because if he gives it to you too soon, you're going to take the credit. So sit back and enjoy the journey that God is taking you on. Continue to replenish yourself in his word and in his promises and what he says about you and what you're going through. That he understands that he got your back. And he will get the glory in the end. And all else will prevail. So stay encouraged and continue to hold on to his garment.